This podcast contains real stories, adult language, and occasional chaos. Some content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you're easily offended, overly nostalgic, or still living in a dorm.
Hey everybody, it's your boy Mike with the Dorm Disorder Podcast. Before we get started, don't forget, like, subscribe, follow. Please, that goes a long way in helping everybody else out here. If you like what you're seeing, write a review. That'll help other people get to find our podcast so you can see it. I'm here, your host, Mike, and our
Dan Glorious, 9-4.
And of course, we've got a guest today for you all, introducing Ron Marrero of the class of 1994. Ron, thank you so much for being with us today.
Bring the old school 9-4 letters thing.
Welcome to the podcast. We got a lot of things that we wanted to talk about today, so let's just get straight to it. First and foremost, tell us how you got to Girard and what's your first memory of being there?
All right. So I got to Girard. I was at the Bridesburg Boys Club for aftercare and summer camps, and a organization called Parents Without Partners.
I knew it.
Had reached out.
I knew it.
So there was 3 families from the boys club. It was my brother and I. It was Eddie McClay, and it was Patty and Joey Alivato, who were all at the same boys club, and we all ended up going to Girard at the same time. So we, all ended up there that first year. Joe was in 6th grade. I was 5th grade. Eddie McClay was 5th grade. Chris was 4th. And I think Patty would have been in 2nd. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got there. The first memory of Girard was actually the entrance exam and them showing us the playground and the pool and everything that entices you to get there. And then my first weekend is the biggest memory. That Friday night, can't go home, but Chris hopped the wall with Eddie McClay. My mom had given us both bags of quarters for the snack machines.
Brother.
Chris, my brother. Yeah. Yeah. So if you remember the junior school, there was the snack machines and the Frank's Cola. So she had given us bags of quarters. Eddie and Chris hopped the wall. They turned the junior school play shirts inside out so no one could see the Girard College logo. And they got on the trolley and went home for the weekend and left me crying on the playground. And I'm pretty sure it was with Patty. I found her crying with Patty because Patty couldn't see Joe. He was up in Banker and we were all in the junior school. So.
Oh, man, that's terrible. And kind of appropriate for all the stories we've been telling so far. So it's funny that you mentioned the, what was the group called?
Parents Without Partners.
Okay. So my wife talks about how basically that's how all the white kids got to Girard.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that you're one of the few, Dan, that wasn't brought in.
I don't know what the hell Parents Without Partners is. No idea. As soon as he said it was the first time I heard it. So, no, I did not. That was not how I got to Girard.
So it was some organization for divorced parents that would do activities. I remember going to see NWA wrestling at the Civic Center. Through the program. We went to New York for the program. So it was opportunities for parents to do stuff with kids and I guess socially, as I recall. But I don't remember, how it is we found out about it. I want to say it was through the boys club since we were all involved in the program, but I don't remember how my mom found out about it.
That's wild.
But all the white kids that I know about, that's how they got there. I wanted to ask you that specifically. If you were one of the Parents Without Partners bullies, and yes, you were.
We were.
So, Dan, why don't you recount a couple of your memories of Ron? Now, we're all athletes here. Yes. We all participated in
former. May not look like it now.
Former athletes.
But why don't you go ahead and tell us about this guy and one of your first memories of, or one of your most important memories of Ron at Girard?
So I've known Ron for a very, very long time. Obviously, we graduated together. We didn't start in the same grade. I had to work my way to get into Ron's grade. But prior to that, as with all of us on the any kind of athletic field, we're all very, very competitive. And as for those of you that do know me, I do talk a lot during games. Doesn't matter what the game is, I will pick something out, whether it's your appearance, whether it's how you're playing, and I will continue to be in your ear for the entire game. So we're playing a pickup street hockey game. I think it might have been, I don't know if it was a tournament that Gallagher started, like it was an intramural hockey league in the winter. And it was all like NHL name teams. I think I started on the Calgary Flames with Eugene White and some other people. And Ron was on a team that wasn't performing well. So coupled that with me talking, I hit a shot on Ron. And he made a good save. Like, it was a good save. So after talking for about 25 minutes, Ron was irritated, but I tapped him on the pad as like, good save. It was like just a little tap. It wasn't a whack. It was like kind of like a tap. And Ron had enough. So Ron gripped me up in his goalie gear, and we tussled into the net. And then he had me like by the shirt and was like pushing me against the wall. And I just kind of had my arms spread out like, you're looking at this, it's going to be a penalty. And eventually it was. But it's one of my favorite memories because, I don't know, Ron let me irritate him to the point that,
well, I'm pretty sure
it had to be physical.
I'm pretty sure you were killing the team, and I had made like 50 saves in that game.
Yeah.
And I had all the poor hockey equipment.
Yeah.
All right, I had my Lex Street pads, but I had a jacket underneath a Flyers jersey because I didn't have a chest protector. And like there was another kid at the school who had all of like the professional Milex stuff, and I did not. Yeah. And so I mean, I had a chip on my shoulder with that too. It was like, wait, I'm playing for a crappy team here. I'm making better saves. I remember Dan Garrett take a slap shot off me, and because I only have a jacket on, I had a bruise on my shoulder for 3 weeks because of how hard the ball came in. So
Garrett's a bully.
Yeah,
Garrett's a bully.
Exactly. So, and then there was the hockey tournament with Mercy Vocational, where again I was not allowed to play goalie, but I started a fight, so that was a fun time.
So that was a pretty good time with Mercy Vocational too, because my first memory of you with that is you walking in with a broom and just screaming like a madman, because we had basically taken these kids and dominated them the first 3 games. And Dan, in his ever so kindness, instead of starting all the better players, he started kids, most of the guys that were my age and around my class, that gave them a shot. So you didn't get your sweep that you wanted, but you really wanted it.
I did, but that's because I wasn't playing. I had started that fight the game before. 1 shift, hip check, started an actual fight, and I think I was in 8th grade when that happened, or maybe it was 9th grade. So, because there were like names like James McGee, a name I haven't thought of in years, who was playing, and you said the Robinsons, and like people, like it was fun, but you know, we were playing high school kids at that point.
I think Prophet was there too.
Well, I'm sure it was Prophet and Canoe and all those guys from 91. Yeah. But then he, you know, as you said, Mr. Garrett was playing the younger kids, and they were still playing against real high school kids. So they started to beat us, and it was I didn't get the sweep that I wanted.
And you just need the visual, because those kids came in with jerseys. Mm-hmm. They had pads. They were like an actual team, and we were just the ragtag, almost like, you know, the Mighty Ducks when they first had their first practice. It was kind of like that, except not on ice. Like we looked like a ragtag bunch of. I know they came in thinking they were going to whoop our ass, and it just, nothing felt better than to beat them up physically and take their souls. 4 games to 1. Yeah.
Well, my best memory of Ron and Girard has nothing to do with hockey, but everything to do with wrestling. And I'm going to somewhat recount the story for everyone, because it's a little bit different when you're in this squared circle and actually doing the match. But Ron had to wrestle a kid. Do you remember which school that kid was from? I think it was Dobbins.
No, it was Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King.
Because he had a purple and gold, so it was like wrestling a Laker. And it was and it was when Girard used to have the tournament. It was a Saturday tournament where they brought in Valley Forge, Northeast High School came in, Dobbins, Olney, who was like the city champs for 3 straight years, was at that tournament. So it was like real people, and I was not a real wrestler. But I'll let you go ahead.
But you were not a real wrestler, but you were definitely like the heart of the wrestling team, because you always went out there and fought. So we gave you that credit. And we thought you were about to get killed Because this kid was probably about 6'3" and was definitely at the maximum weight of 275 that you could wrestle at. And we just thought it was a wrap for you.
Well, and that was the weigh-in weight. He probably put on another 10 pounds after weigh-in.
Yeah, so how'd you win that match, Ron?
I don't know. It wasn't just a win, Mike. I pinned him. I don't know how that happened. In fact, I think I got him off the ground to put him onto his back, and then it was like he was a turtle. He was stuck upside down and couldn't move from there. So.
You did not pick that man off.
Okay.
It was a bear hug takedown, almost like a trip. You fell on top of him, and you're correct. He could not get up. But the fact that you actually got that man on his back was still probably one of the most impressive wins I have ever seen in my 7 years of wrestling at Girard. So hats off to you still 30 years later.
I appreciate that. I still don't know how it happened, and the only other memory I really have of wrestling is there's a picture in my yearbook, or Dan's yearbook too, from the wrestling team where we had a practice, and I was so confused after the practice that I put my wrestling jacket that we had, it was on backwards. So like the hood is so if you look at this picture, like the hood is in the front of my face, and I look totally confused, and you guys are all like, oh, this was nothing. So yeah,
you still did a great job that day. So some of the other things that you did at Girard, you were also a musician.
I was, yeah.
Was a musician?
I mean, I still play a little bit today, but not the same instrument that I was known for back then.
Which was?
The trombone.
That's right, trombone. But you did play bass for the jazz band.
We did. I think it was Mr. Collins who asked me to transition from trombone to bass because I could read the bass music and learn the fingerings on the bass. And that's what I still play today in a cover band. So if you're looking for Mas Tequila Orchestra, we play weddings, second weddings, bars, backyards. It doesn't matter. So,
I'm sorry, did you say fingering?
Yes, I did say finger.
I was going to say pause.
Yes.
I was going to say pause, but
I did say finger.
Sorry about that.
Dirty Mind Dan. So, but yeah, you were in the jazz band and the bands too.
I was not in the jazz band. I was not that good.
I thought you were.
I was not that good. I was usually, I did get first chair on some songs, but I played trumpet and I was mostly second chair, which I actually prefer because they play better parts of the lines. Personally, to me, that was just my opinion.
Okay.
But let's talk about you guys in your class. And how about tell me about, I don't know, some of the trips at Girard, especially in the 90s. They had their own je ne sais quoi to them. And every trip had its own thing. And two things come to mind. And one is what we renamed from Gettysburg to Ghettosburg. So why don't you regale me some of the tales of 94 in Gettysburg?
So we go out to Gettysburg for the middle school trip. And as we were out there was a visitor center that sold stuff. And let's just say they didn't sell anything to our class. Everybody walked out.
Why didn't they sell anything to your class?
Because everybody had 5 fingers. And we had the 5-finger discount going. So everybody walked out of there until I think we were technically thrown out and put on the bus. But that was the Gettysburg trip that everybody had something in. And I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations has expired on those thefts at this point. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Dan, what'd you get out of this trip?
All stories are alleged. Allegedly stolen some stuff. I actually was not on that trip because I didn't join their class till 2 years later until I cut summer school. So
okay, but you went on the trip.
I went on the trip. Kind of the same story, but 93 was not. Most of the class wasn't like that, so they were kind of chill. I think they bought shit. So
there's some people in '93 who definitely would have bought stuff.
I'm not bringing any names up, but yeah, there's definitely a few that would have taken it, but it wasn't like what Ron's explaining. So
but you were on the Great Adventure trip with us, and the 5-finger discounts happened there too, right?
Yep. A lot of Looney Tunes stuffed animals just kind of walked out that door.
Well, I think by the time my class graduated, or we got to 8th grade, because this wasn't always an 8th grade class trip. All eighth grade classes back then all went to Gettysburg. I think by the time we got there, it was a competition to who could steal the most valuable stuff. Now, I think most of my classmates did well, but me and one, I will not say which one, but if you know me, you know which one it is. Me and Tiffany definitely walked away with the highest dollar 5-finger discount of all of Gettysburg. So in Gettysburg, there's a beautiful part of the visitor center where you see the electric map. And I'm sure that's updated now, but it would be lights on a huge map to show you how the battle took place. Underneath our seats were 2 sets of hi-fi headphones. Those nice ones, the big old thick plug-in that you knew you had the good stuff when you was using that. Yeah, we just took them out and put them in our bags and just peace out to the place. I didn't feel any kind of way about this at the time. Yes, and it was stealing, and I should have felt bad. And I know if I would have got caught, I would have felt worse. But it's not stealing unless you get caught. Therefore, I didn't feel bad. But until about 10 years ago, I'm thinking about this, and I was like, why were those headphones there? Then it hit me. That's for hearing impaired people. You stole headphones from people who were disabled. Now, as a disabled person, I kind of hate myself for it just a little bit now.
You probably should. I mean, are you going to kick around a person, blind person with their cane and take their cane too, Mike? Jeez.
That wasn't what was presented at the time. But maybe if that cane had a little bit of jewelry on it, I might have took that. But you all had a class, definitely went on a trip together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember some stories about probably the most favorite French teacher of all, Girard, Mademoiselle Zaleski.
Shaleshki. Miss Shaleshki. Yeah, no. And we ruined so many things for the classes that were behind us. Like, we just did so much shit that they were like, yeah, we're not doing this again because we can't allow this to happen again. So Zaleski worked the system to get us off campus for a trip to Opan to kind of walk into this, I guess that was like a French bakery. I don't remember walking in there. I remember walking into another bakery, but we walked in there. We kind of had a tour, and then she took us over to the park.
This is right in downtown.
This is downtown.
This is Second and Market in Old City.
Yep.
Okay.
Old City. And we were kind of just hanging out. And then a couple of us walked away, and we started walking around Old City, and we found an erotic bakery.
Erotic cakes is what it was called.
Yes. So we ran back, grabbed a couple more people, and kept going into the bakery, laughing at the penis cakes and everything else that was there. Putting our faces up against the glass. Zaleski was embarrassed. I think at some point she had to come over and get us out of the bakery.
She did. And we were then escorted right to where we had to go back to school.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why, if you see the postings of some of our brothers and sisters from the class of 95, and they keep saying the infamous class of 95, and I said, they don't understand the word of infamous, because it was us who caused all these problems, that they could do whatever they wanted, slide under the radar. And I know for a fact the administration thought they were, this is a good group of kids, because our class had already rolled through. So.
Yeah, if they were judged against us, it was no way.
We had talked about this a little bit in previous times, but we basically boiled it out to all even number classes were assholes. We were pretty bad because 95, they looked a lot nicer than us and did good things, but we just had some of the jerkiest jerks. And in 94, 92, I can't speak for 98, they're younger than us, but 97 was super nice compared to the rest of us. So I'm pretty sure 98 probably was a bunch of roughnecks too.
Actually, I would say no. And the only reason I have that is I came back for the spring of 98 to volunteer as a baseball coach.
Okay.
And I was at Penn, so I had a lot of afternoons free. So I was up there 3-4 days a week working with the team. And that team was filled with Anton Karakov, Wes Thomas, and Antonio was in that class. The Sweeney brothers were in that class.
Okay, yeah.
They were nice. So that class, I mean, they may have gotten into some trouble, but in no way had I had heard anything like it was with our class or some of the other classes. So I can't say I know everybody in that class, but I don't
So
think
it started to get soft after us, is what I'm hearing.
things change.
I'm pretty sure the teachers celebrated after we left. I think once we were going to early June, it was a party for them.
Well, I can tell you Ms. Zaleski didn't tell me that because she actually came to my graduation party.
Interesting.
And she was there with some other people that came. Wes Morris came from the class of 93. I'm still great friends with Wes. A shout out Pulitzer Prize winner 2 times for him. But, I never heard any of those complaints. I did run into Leak a few years after that. And he was like, yeah, your class, Marrero, your class. And then he just left it at that.
So I played Zaleski in tennis. All year I was in her ear because she kept telling me she's good at tennis. I'm like, I'll beat you in tennis. And then it was like 3 weeks before we graduated, and she came down to the tennis courts.
She beat you, didn't she?
She did.
She whooped you.
No, she didn't whoop me. But I was surprised at how well she could play. Yeah, that was a surprise.
It's funny that you mentioned Wes Morris. He was actually my doubles tennis partner when in '93, the year he graduated, and you losing to Zaleski. I could have actually told you she actually knew how to play tennis.
Yeah.
She would
I
come
think
down
she was
every once
surprised
in a
at how
while.
well I could play because, again, people were just like associate with me soccer. So I hit but a couple of nice shots, and she was like, "Oh, okay." So it was a more competitive game than she anticipated, and definitely more than I thought because I thought there's no way she's beating me.
The athletic competition with the teachers is always fun because there was the senior football game, which I'm pretty sure that interrupted into a fight or close to a fight with some of the teachers where didn't they stop our game? Didn't we have to stop it because of the interaction?
They did, and to none of your surprise, I was heavily involved in the issue because Mr. Bass wanted to fight me, and also John Martino wanted to fight me as well. Because again, it's just I kept talking, and every time I scored, I would just toss whoever was covering me. I would toss the football at them and run back on defense. But yeah, Mr. Bass at one point, I scored a touchdown. I dropped the ball behind me. He picked the ball up and punted it. I want to say like 50 yards away, just punted it. So I turned to Greg Harris or whoever was the referee, and I'm like, "Is that a flag? That's a flag, right? Delay a game, is that a flag?" And he was like, "What? No, I can't kick the ball." So he came running over to me, and Martino at one point, we got tangled. Our feet got tangled. He was a wide receiver. I was covering him. Our feet got tangled, and he tripped, and he fell down, and I didn't catch the interception, but the ball flew over his head, and he got up, and he said he was going to clobber me. And I said, "Clobber me? Really? That's the toughest thing you can say is clobber?" So,
Well, it was Martino.
yeah. I'll clobber you, Niddle.
Still one of our favorite teachers.
Yeah,
Hats off
absolutely.
to you, Martino. We
Yeah,
still love you, bro.
Yeah, definitely. There's no ill will there at all.
Well, since we're on the sports angle of things, and you mentioned Mr. Leak as well, he was also the coach of the swim team.
He was. I swam for him 7th grade through 10th grade, and was swimming varsity as a 7th grader. It's pretty crazy. But Leak didn't swim. Like he just stood there and told us what to do. We actually at one point had to have the lifeguards. Like they made students get their lifeguard.
I remember that.
So we could have somebody there, so we could actually have the practices. And he was great. Like I remember one of the life lessons from Leak was I had skipped some practice because I wanted to hang out with somebody on campus. And he was like, he caught me the next day and he was like, "Marrero, look, you're a bright kid. You're smart. You're good looking. You want to not be hanging out with the girls for practice. Don't skip
I didn't know Leak to be a liar. I don't believe he said that.
Well, I mean, he did. He may have been telling me an untruth. He also told me not to go to the University of Miami because you can't make it by the beach, you can't make it by the park, you can't make it by all this other stuff because there's girls everywhere. So, and Leak went to Miami. So it's
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah. And just to tell a quick story, Leak, when they wanted to let go of Leak, there was a period where the school was looking to get rid of him. and I wrote a letter to the Board of City Trust on his behalf to say, you can't let go of this guy. There's a guy who would, wait for the trolley at 7 o'clock at night because he didn't drive to go home because he was spending time with the students at whether it was track or swim team, and just the dedication that he had for all of us. He made us all better people. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. R.I.P. Mr. Leak, man. We still love you to this day. Danny, you have a little bit of a different take with this. So why don't you tell me a part of your story of running track maybe with Mr. Leak?
So we kind of touched on this not too long ago, but I signed up for track one year mostly because I wanted to go to the Penn relays. I wanted to get out of class for those 2 days, that Thursday, Friday, and just be able to hang out at Penn relays, because all I ever heard the track dudes talk about Penn relays. So I'm like, let me just get there. So, and I wanted to run the 200. Like the 100 was solidified by a couple of people in '95 who are faster than me. I'm not, but it took me like 20, 30 meters to get started, and then once I was going, I could move pretty fast. But Leak wanted me to run the 400. And he was adamant that I run the 400. Adamant. So much so that he had me racing our track coach, an assistant track coach. He was also a teacher. I think he was in the middle school. I figured his name was light skin teacher. But I would race him inside in the armory. And one time he was beating me. And I think he slowed down just a little bit, but I caught him and then beat him in that practice. So, and that goes back to that 400 relay that I ran. It was my very first race in the 400, and I was second. I think I was the second leg. So I'm waiting for the baton. I get it, and I just run with everything that is in me. Like I just start off at a sprint, and I'm smoking everybody that's behind me. Like I'm so far ahead, and I remember this visual of Keith Dozier, who is like yelling at me, no, slow down. And then I hear everyone else saying, slow down. And it got to a point where if they've ever told you about hitting the wall, like I definitely hit the wall. Adrenaline and the speed I was running, I was not going to be able to keep that pace for the entire 400. Keith, being a expert runner at that point, understood what was going to happen to me. But I crashed hard into that wall, and for the last 100 meters or so, I was damn near at a walk. And then we came in third. We came in third out of 4 teams that were running. I was disappointed in myself, and at that point, I decided I'm not running the 400. So Leak would always talk to me. Don't worry about it. It's your first race. You'll learn how to run. I'm like, why the hell did nobody tell me before we started? I need to keep pace and then sprint towards the end, instead of just shooting out. But I ran that shit like I was running the 200. And I did well for 200.
200 meters. Long race, wrong time. So unfortunately, that wasn't the way that was supposed to go.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us more about the swim team a little bit?
All right. So the swim team was back then had 7th graders to 12th graders. Mm-hmm. And there were people who had never been in a pool before that were on the team. And then there were kids like me.
That's crazy. I'm
seriously.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's crazy. If you've never been in a pool, what the hell are you going to be just for?
And there's, I can think of Claude Donaldson, who he actually became wouldn't say a great swimmer, but he was doing the 500 meters, which is a long race.
Yeah.
But he got to the point where he could do it. And we needed to throw bodies in because, we didn't have a lot. I'm a 7th grader swimming the butterfly and the IM. You're relying on a 7th grader to do it at the high school level, right? Against West Town, against George School, against Valley Forge Military Academy. We're going up against regular high schools, and you've got a 7th grader doing it because I know how to swim the butterfly, and nobody else other than Mark Diedman and Rochelle Cron knew how to do it. There was 3 people, and if you notice, there is a sort of
theme there.
There.
I mean, it was mostly a thing with most of the swim team at the time. I mean, most.
Yeah, I mean,
not all, but
there were a couple. Mike Morrison was on the team, and him and Mark Diedman could swim.
And you said Claude.
And Claude.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a theme in that. It was a lot of the white kids that were there. But I mean, I had been on a swim team since, I don't know when. You guys, we've talked about outside the podcast area about the swimming bathing suits that were just left there for us to take and use when we were younger. I would bring my own swim team Speedos as a 5th grader because I didn't want to use the generic lay around swimsuits. But yeah, it was a team that they ended up shutting down in 10th grade after the 10th grade year, which is how I got to wrestle with you. Because I worked the tournament, that February tournament, and I was like, well, I could do this, and then I realized I shouldn't have been doing it.
It's a little bit harder than it looked.
So
it was definitely harder.
Let me ask you a question. How did you hear about the swim team? Was it Partners Without Pools?
Look, it was a recruiting wing. I was thinking the exact same thing.
I will tell you that when I did the entrance exam coming in and they showed the campus, they highlighted there were 2 pools on the campus.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember ever being in the little pool personally.
Biggest roaches ever in the small pool.
I'm sure.
They wasn't in the pool. They were in the drains around the pool. The little pool was great. You could run around in a circle in it.
Those roaches could fit in size 6 sneakers.
Yeah.
Those roaches were big as shit at the small pool.
But they did reference that there were pools when we were there as a recruitment tool. Hey, there's pools here that are open.
And the small pool was more like a sauna. That
Yeah,
pool,
it was-
It was
that
about the
hot.
size of this space right here.
Yeah,
honestly.
and it was hot
not very
there.
big.
It was
yeah.
hot.
Well, but remember, I mean, those pools were put in there when that building was built in like the 50s. Like the big pool was hot, you know, and that little fan underneath the fire escape didn't take out enough of the humidity for what's in there.
No.
But yeah, so swim team, Leek was coaching it because Leek starts at Girard my 6th grade year halfway through, and then he's coaching the swim team from 7th to 10th grades. So.
And not to get all back in my day, but when I started there, we didn't have swim trunks at all. We were free balling every time we went to the pool.
Yeah.
Every damn time we went. And it was gross and it was nasty, and they shouldn't have let us do that. But my family's not buying me swim trunks for the 1 or 2 times a year that we go to that pool. It wasn't like we went there every day. So I don't remember getting swim trunks until 84 when the girls came in. And then it was issued through the laundry.
Right.
Like we actually got it through the laundry.
I don't remember the laundry ones. I just remember there was like a mesh bag at the big pool and you took them.
I almost feel like that bag, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to see this that are going to remember it, but I almost thought that mesh bag was strictly when we had to do pool during gym. And that bag was kind of left over any time that we went to the pool. But I feel like those were like the gym swim trunks because they were a little bit longer. Like we had the nut hugger, banana hammock, Speedos where like we were professional swimmers, which none of us were. And my fat ass had no business wearing those swim trunks at all.
And so that's what you say. You think they were issued from the laundry. I was used to Speedos because the Bridesburg Recreation Center where I swam during the summers, we actually had it was the one pool in the city that had an actual uniform that we all had to wear and buy. And it was a Speedo. Like, so I would go down Wildwood and I'd be a French Canadian in my Speedo. Because that was the bathing suits that I had, as a kid, because it was from the swim team. So that's why I don't remember them issuing the Speedos through the laundry. But
Yeah, no, they were.
We're both old at this point.
They were in our laundry bag. Oh yeah, hell, I know.
You are an attorney, correct?
I am. In fact, I was a public defender for 5 years. So as you start to ask questions, everyone is innocent until they're proven guilty. Everyone who's charged with crime allegedly is facing certain facts, but I'll put that out as the disclaimer on any questions you're going to ask about legal matters. And I'm not providing any legal advice. So,
well, I got lots of questions because I got lots of papers, so I have questions. Mr. Lawyer Person, welcome to the Dorm Disorder Podcast. I'd like your. Could you? Let's just start with this seriously. Could you summarize the charges that this individual is facing?
So there's a number of different counts that are on the criminal docket.
Would you like to reference?
I mean,
just in case, I don't want you.
If you need me to.
No, you need it. I don't want to.
He's facing a number of felonies in the third degree and one misdemeanor charge. There's a charge that is involving specifically sexual encounters involving minors while at a school. That charge, there's different sections to that statute. The first section starts with DHS care, and it is really focused on like kids who are in placement and having sort of, for lack of a better term, prison guards, but they're not really guards. And there's a specific section there. They added a section, I want to say in 98, that involved schools. And so persons over 18 who have engaged in sexual contact in the school setting. I want to say there's 6 or 7 of those charges from this particular case. There's, I believe it's, I actually have to look at it.
Yeah.
I think it's the, so there's intercourse with a student. There's unlawful contact with minors. There's an indecent assault with someone less than 13 years of age. It's one charge. There's an endangering welfare of children, which that charge is not necessarily sexual in relation. There's a corruption of minors where the defendant's age 18 or above.
Or 18 below, or
the defendant.
The defendant.
18 or above. There's criminal use of communication facility, which back when I was a public defender, that often was like cell phones or other types of ways to communicate. So maybe there's emails involved. And then there's a possession of an instrument of crime, which is the only misdemeanor. Possession of instrument of crime basically is anything that was used in a crime. So if Dan were to beat you with this microphone because he's sick of your opinions, this would be a possession of instrument of crime in his assault against you. So those are all felony of the third degrees and one misdemeanor. Felony of the third degree is punishable by maximum of 7 years incarceration. Misdemeanors maximum of 5 years. But there's sentencing guidelines that are involved. Should he be found guilty, which he has not been, the case is in a status. It's going to a status conference in August, and that may be a determination of whether it's going to go to trial or what the judge wants to do in terms of scheduling. But there's sentencing guidelines that would likely provide minimums and maximums for somebody who has a prior record score of a 0, because I'm not aware of anything for him in terms of criminal actions. So if you were to go, and you could find this on the internet, it's a diagram, and one side's the prior offense gravity scores, the other side is the prior record score, and you just go and find the box, and that's the recommended minimum and maximum sentences, but a judge can always go below or above that.
Ron, is there anything in there about taking minors across state lines? Because I thought I heard some of this happened in this person's residence in Indiana.
So the stories that were published, I don't believe referenced that.
Okay.
And there's nothing in that, and that would likely have been a federal charge.
Okay.
Sort of think the Diddy trials,
Yep.
right? That's not in the Pennsylvania case from what I can tell.
Okay.
One of the things that I just found interesting, and this might not be a technically fair question, having not been a lawyer that's present when these things are happening, but it lists trial on 4 separate dates: November 12th, January 13th, 2025, February 24th, 2025, March 31st, 2025. And then we got a status conference June 2nd, and another status conference coming up in August 11th. At least in a general view, could you give us some insight into just how a case would show trial several times when there's no trial, and then we just get to status conference?
Sure. So procedurally, when you have felony charges in Pennsylvania, 99% of the cases first go to a preliminary hearing. Every so often you'll have a grand jury indictment case, usually seems to be reserved for specific types of cases, whether it's a politician or a police officer who's being charged as a defendant. But 99% of them are through preliminary hearings. And that's where you go in front of a judge who is usually a lower level judge that's only going to determine if the case is proceeding to trial. Defendants don't testify at those hearings because credibility is not at issue. In fact, the credibility is always in favor of the Commonwealth in those cases. In this case, the preliminary hearings were waived. So they didn't actually hold the preliminary hearing. And then all of the charges that were charged are now at the common pleas level or the trial court level.
Okay.
At the trial court level, there's any number of reasons why a case can be continued. Usually, a simple case, you might have a listing for where all of the discovery that the Commonwealth has to be produced to the other side. So that may be a status listing early on in the case. There's motions in limine hearings. There's motions to suppress hearings that could potentially be a delay, because usually those are not going to be heard when a trial is going to take place. They're usually heard before the trial. And in fact, oftentimes if you're doing the motion to suppress that includes an argument about credibility, that you would then want to ask the judge to recuse themselves because they've made a credibility determination in the motion. Excuse me. So in this particular case, it looks like there were some different status listings with the court. It could be scheduling. It's in Delaware County. Delaware County judges schedule things themselves, whereas in Philadelphia, usually you're just given a court date in a room, and the judge may not be that judge 2 months later because they rotate the judges in Philadelphia. There may have been listings because the Commonwealth wasn't ready for some reason. They didn't have the evidence, or a witness wasn't present. A lot of the most recent ones seem to be status conferences, either at the request of the defendant or the court, because there's a notation about speedy trial being waived. So the defendant is agreeing that at least to continue it, because they're waiving the speedy trial rights.
Okay, so that's more of a person waiving their right to a speedy trial because they want to either delay for whatever reason. Not that this is.
I mean, it may not be like a delay just to stay out. Although
no, not that just delay for just means of their own defense or
something. It may be to procure witnesses, get evidence. In a case. And like this, you may be thinking, the attorney may be thinking not just of the individual case, but also getting evidence for potential sentencing to try to have a reduced sentence or a lesser sentence. So you want to get that not exculpatory, you want to get the remedial type measures. In death penalty cases, it's done automatically. You have two different attorneys. One does the trial on the criminal case for guilt, and then there's the sentencing phase attorney who gets the school records, get the psychological reports, gets the experts that are going to testify as to why this person's life should be saved and not be sentenced to death. I can't say what's going on specifically here because the docket just says status conference and then lists the next date for most of those.
So with a normal flow of a trial like this, do you have any expectations of what you would think would be happening next or when this would resolve?
It depends. Sometimes trials can go on. These types of cases can last for a couple years.
Okay.
At some of these hearings, I would expect the Commonwealth to be making offers for him to plead guilty or to plead nolo contendere, which means no contest. A lot of times the status conference will be, status conference for the district attorney to make the offer. We'll bring it back 2 months, make a decision on that from the defendant's perspective. Because if a defendant is pleading guilty, they have to not only you have to do a colloquy on the record to make sure they understand they're giving up their rights to a jury trial, and then a separate colloquy to make sure they understand what they're pleading guilty to, what the charges are, they had advice of counsel, and there's a written colloquy that goes along with that. So in a guilty plea, you're making sure you get all of that documented because the court doesn't want to have defendants then saying, hey, I didn't have the knowledge and understanding at the time of the guilty plea. I want to take away that and go back to trial. So,
Ron, wasn't there a point where he sent a text message to the plaintiff apologizing for what he did? And why are we still in a court case if there's documented evidence of him apologizing for doing this act?
So first off, I'll say I don't know for sure that that's the case.
I'm almost certain it was reported by the news.
There may have been a story that referenced that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that's accurate just because a story says it.
Okay.
Got to remember the source that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
That statement could have been something that may have been subject to a motion to suppress, especially if it was the officers were involved in reaching out to him to elicit that apology. Because once officers are involved, you can't just elicit statements from people. Now, if that statement was made just to that person, then a motion to suppress would not be valid because it wasn't a custodial type of interrogation or eliciting from a law enforcement agency.
Okay.
Regardless, there's a number of different ways you can try to attack things, right? You could say the Commonwealth introduces that statement. If it just says, I'm sorry, well, that doesn't necessarily mean from the defense perspective that, oh, I'm sorry means I'm guilty. It might just mean, hey, I'm sorry that you're going through this, or I'm sorry that this is even happening. It could be a number of different things. That I'm sorry could be considered an admission by a jury, but there's arguments around it. And just because, people go to trial all the time when they're guilty, or when evidence seems to be, mounting against them. And sometimes you end up with not guilties. Sometimes you don't. Depends on juries. We can all go back to Rodney King, right? We're at least in this room, we're old enough to remember there was video of what happened and those officers were found not guilty.
Yeah, still acquitted.
Right?
Right.
So, trial is a trial. You've got 12 people who are coming from different perspectives that are in the box. Usually people say jury selection. It's really not jury selection. It's more like jury elimination because you get rid of the people that you absolutely can't have on that jury, and the people that are left are those who remained. Yep. So, but yeah, there's a number of different reasons why you would do it. I'll tell you, I remember a case as a public defender where I tried a case solely because it would give the defendant an extra 6 weeks on the street. It was a mandatory minimum drug case, and he was going to be found guilty. Ended up getting a not guilty at the end of it, but the only reason we're trying it is because it was a mandatory minimum 1 year, so I knew I could get him another 6 weeks on the street, get his stuff in order, and come back for sentencing. And he would have gotten the 1 year, so we weren't worried about him getting more time from the judge we were in front of. And, that was the reason we did that trial. Yeah. Got a not guilty out of it, so he didn't have to do any time out of it. But there's a number of different reasons you can do as an attorney.
Yeah, and lastly, I really want your true legal opinion. Is Dan a dick?
So I said I wasn't giving legal advice at the beginning of this. Dan has always been a dick. All right. Our senior year, we shared a bathroom where he was next door. And just the amount of dickery that came from that room between him and his roommate, that I love him, it just was enormous dickery from both of them.
So and finally, because this has definitely got some legal standing, but I think it may be a little bit damaging to you, counselor. How much did you all steal from Rasul, and why did y'all do it?
I never stole from Russell. All right. And in fact, I just texted with Russell today. But I never stole from Russell.
Just for a moment, just to explain this, we had a classmate, class of 1995, Russell. He is now very well-published author and documentarian. Good documentarian, Russell Berry. Had a store, The Soul Story. His big brother, Rich, who is in your all's class, or 92, graduated before us, will help him stock the Soul Store up. But the dicks of the class of 94, so not only would take his stuff, but y'all did something particularly egregious. Did you know about this?
You're going to have to remind me about it. Because again, I didn't steal. I didn't steal from his store. I actually bought from his store because Chris used to do it when we were in the junior school. He would sell the snacks and stuff that my mom would bring for him when he was in fourth grade because he couldn't go home every weekend. And he would do the same thing. So I had a respect, even at that age. I'm not stealing from the Soul Store.
So it wasn't that we stole from the store. So what happened was the class of 95 had a mascot. And it was a little stuffed animal. Now, I don't know, or stuffed clown, I forget what it was. I don't know how we in the class of 94 came in possession of said mascot. I do know that as we were all dicks, we were very irritated by this mascot. Somebody got it, and then we cut it up into little pieces. And then each of us put it on our lapel and wore it around campus as like a victory trophy.
Like ears.
Yes.
You were in ears.
So, and I actually forgot about this, but in 2016, we were at the Sports Bank Hall of Fame during Founders Day. And I was there with Jill, and Russell came over to me. And much like your story last week, he reminded me of how much of a dick I was. Like, I don't know why you guys, and I can tell you right now, I know exactly what I had. I had a leg and a little foot. That's what I had that was pinned to my jacket. And we must have worn it for like 2 or 3 weeks. But we didn't steal candy from his store.
I can tell you I did not wear that on the lapel.
Are you sure we're not going to find any evidence of this,
I think
counselor?
he had like the stuffing.
I think he did have some stuffing on you. I think he had a little stuffing.
I think I can guarantee I did not.
I was pretty sure we all did it.
And the reason I can say that is that I was the one person from the class of 94 that kind of floated in the circles of 95 as well. Because it wasn't just Chris and Corey and Brock and all. Like I was able to do a lot of floating between things. Did a lot of that with 96 too. So, and that with Tiff and like so. I mean, I was able to do a lot because I wasn't around for a lot of that, and I didn't like. Dan can tell you, look in our senior yearbook, how many pictures that I'm not in. Everybody else is in, including who I was dating at the time. I'm not there. So I can guarantee I didn't have Soul's stuffed animal, and I completely forgot about it.
My apologies, Russell. My bad.
And Russell
I
has
never
never
stole from you, Sewell.
And Sewell's never mentioned it to me when we've talked on the phone, or he and I have gotten into religious conversations and stuff. Like he's never mentioned it at once to me. So I feel like Russell would have told me about that as well, because he obviously told Dan about it.
Yeah, so. He was pretty upset with it. So, now there was one time we had a couple of people that had some money when they came back to school. And we were up late playing cards, and we were on the first floor. We're up late, pity pat, whatever we were playing. We were in somebody else's room. And then abruptly everybody left. Now I had nothing to do with this. I was there, but I had nothing to do with what I'm about to tell you.
I wasn't there for this either.
We all leave, like people started leaving abruptly. So I'm like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. So I go back to my room. Not even 10 minutes later, Garrett is outside in the hallway. He must have been in Breckley's room, banging on our doors, turn all the lights on, had us all open our doors and prop our doors open. Somebody in that room took somebody's wad of money. Now, I'm not going to say what this person did to earn that money, but I can only venture to guess from what they told me back then. It wasn't by anything legal, but somebody took that wad of money. So Garrett starts going in everybody's room. Lifted up mattresses, opening the wardrobe closets, looking. And I'm not going to say who did it. I'm not going to say I saw where it came from. But somebody threw the money into the middle of the floor of the hallway when Garrett was in one of the rooms. And Garrett came back out. The money was sitting there. And this is where I knew this was the class for me, because nobody told who threw the money. We stood out there for another 30-something minutes. Who threw it? And we all just stood there silently and just we would not mention who did it. The person got their money back, and then we all went back to bed. And I don't remember any more repercussions from that, but we stood tall and we defended each other, and we did not back down.
Was that junior year that happened?
I think it was either 10th or 11th grade.
Right. But I remember being in the hallway and not knowing why or what was going on. And so, he's right. We did not snitch on each other, but I didn't know what to snitch
Being
on. Being
clueless helps you not snitch.
Exactly.
Well, we're getting a little on time, so it's one of the things I wanted to talk about. You're also the head of the Girard College Alumni Association.
Formerly.
You were. I said we're the head.
Okay.
Yes. We're the head of the Girard College
I want to make
Alumni
sure Tim Farwood gets the credit for that now, and he's doing a great job with
Absolutely,
it,
and
so.
hopefully we will get Tim on to sit in the chair as well. But you were here you were the GCAA president during a very tumultuous time for the school. So could you talk to us a little bit about that and how we finally came through that ultimately?
Sure. So I wasn't the president at the time that Bernard Smalley and the Board of City Trusts wanted to close the school. Joe Samuel of Class of '88 was the president at the time. I was involved, and a number of different alumni from different generations were involved at that point, where we raised $200,000 to fight what the board wanted to do. So the board filed a motion with Orphans Court. The Girard estate is ultimately controlled by Orphans Court in Philadelphia, which is a specific section of the Common Pleas Court judges. And they filed their motion to eliminate the residential program and eliminate the high school under what I thought was very short-sighted guidance of, we want to keep the school in perpetuity, but making it a day school, which eliminated the core component of Girard College, which is the residential education. Because I think all of us here would say we may have been able to get to our points of our lives from regular schooling, but the residential component is what changed our worldviews or made us who we are.
Right.
So when they filed that petition, the Alumni Association voted to get involved. We reached out to several different attorneys. We spoke with attorneys who were involved in Hershey cases. And ultimately, I found an attorney who was on the Orphans Court Procedural Committee for the Supreme Court based in Harrisburg.
Okay.
And we retained him. And what we did was that we signed up students, we signed up parents, we also signed up and had represented different Philadelphians, because going into the lawsuit, we knew we were going to lose on the association challenging their decision. There was a Hershey Supreme Court case that said the Alumni Association may be, have their heart in the right place, but they're not the intended beneficiaries.
Okay.
So we knew we were not going to have standing to challenge their decision. So we brought in this attorney. There were evidentiary hearings in Common Pleas Court with Judge O'Keefe. He actually appointed an attorney named James Mannion to serve as sort of an investigator for him. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 days of hearings. Ron Donatucci, who has since passed away, showed up with his monogrammed cufflinks without a tie, and he's sitting in the room. And the Attorney General's office, which is really the only group that has oversight of the Board of City Trusts through the parens patriae doctrine, they were testifying on behalf of the estate, saying that they agreed with what they wanted to do. And I remember Joe Samuel was on the stand, and the attorney was asking him questions and said, "Do you know what we did to investigate this?" And Joe's answer was, "We spoke to you. You didn't tell us what you were doing." Basically, they were just rubber stamping what the board wanted to do.
Right.
So ultimately, Judge O'Keefe ruled the association, the students that we signed up, the parents, none of us had standing to challenge what they wanted to do. Kicked us out of court. So we're like, we're going to lose. He ultimately ruled that they couldn't do what they wanted to do. And he found that there was not a need to do their plan at that point. And so he ruled in our favor. We won the war, even though we lost the battle.
Right.
And it got affirmed on the Commonwealth Court. The Attorney General's office switched sides, and we're now saying, we shouldn't overturn what Judge O'Keefe did. It should go forward. The school should remain. And it has since. And the estate has done a good job monetarily. The estate has grown. It's got a good amount of money in it. They've done well with their investments. They've done well with residential properties. The school should have more students than there are in right now. But that's a challenge for any other number of reasons. It's not just, having money. There's outreach to particular communities. They've never done the proper reach out to Asian, Hispanic areas. They've never, there's a lot of things that the school needs to do. And I think they're trying to change some of that currently, including returning to having a weekend program, which I never thought that was coming back. So.
All right. Well, I just got one other thing for you tonight. We're going to play a little game. And I'd like you both to participate.
This was not in the production meeting.
This was not in the production meeting. That wouldn't make the production meeting way too easy. All right. So, simple game. Finish this phrase. to the theme of our theme song. What do you call that? What do you call those songs?
Alma mater.
It's the alma
mater.
school song. The
I mean,
school alma mater.
we had 3 different school songs. We had the Hail Girard. We had the graduation song.
Well, that's the graduation song. It's literally the graduation song.
But it's still specific. And we had Goodnight Christmas Prayer. How many schools had their own Christmas song?
That is true.
So
Listen. But this is to the theme of Hail Girard.
Okay.
All right. So finish this phrase. Children of the great
Republic.
Thank you.
Sorry, we just
on
plugged the microphone.
Emphasis on the lick.
Finishing it off. Lovers of the flag be starred. Mighty
Masters
of
the future, swell the chorus, shout Girard. That's how
Masters?
I believe it was Mighty Masters.
Are you telling me all these years I'm the only one that was actually singing Mighty Bastards of the Future? You weren't saying Mighty Bastards of the Future.
I was not, but I was also singing the 3rd verse, Mike.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to know if we were going to sing this all properly, except you all didn't call it Mighty Bastards of the Future.
And I didn't sing at all, so I would just stand there and let everybody else sing. I did not even move my mouth.
Not even a good lick?
Nah.
You never got
that always.
All right, as long as you got out a good lick.
That one part I would come in on, and then back to silence. Before we go, and I don't want to get into this all the time, where there's going to be comments made on some of the clips that we showed. But I know we said this in the beginning that, these are our stories, but I just want to kind of reiterate for some of the older alumni or maybe some of the younger alumni that might see some of these stories as disparaging to Girard College or taking cheap shots at the school. I just want them to know that this is not the intent of this. The intent is to share our stories, but we very much love the school, and the school did help us out and gave us opportunities that we wouldn't have had otherwise. But showering with a group of people is weird. I don't care what age you are. It's weird. It was weird then at 2nd grade. It didn't fall oblivious to me. I found it weird that was part of that. And
but
also
that was based
some of the
off
people
of the military style. I mean, Mike probably did it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely did.
Right. It was
but you
military
also
dorms.
do
We had a bed. We had a bed and a chair in junior school. That was it.
You're not serving the military at 6 and
But
7,
it was,
bro.
it was
it's
based off of a military style school.
I get it. But also, as some people brought up, some house parents made us walk over to them to put shampoo in our hands to go back and wash our hair. What?
Because they had the big jug of orange shampoo.
All right, listen, we could be here all night. I just wanted to say.
I'm not saying that I would like that now, but like it was a big, and one of those house parents I didn't mind walking over to.
Listen. Or house parents eyeballing us, telling us to make sure we lather up. So listen, we can go on to this, but I just want to say that the school was very beneficial to me and provided me with opportunities once I left and while I was there that allowed me to be successful in my outside life. And I very much appreciate the school, as I'm sure Mike does, and I know Ron does. So I just don't want these stories to just reflect any kind of negativity on how we felt while we were there.
Times evolve, the schools evolve. They don't do that now, and they moved from the military style junior school to having more of house parent, like communal settings in the West End. So their times change. We were just in a transition time where they were going from the military style to non-military style. But and if I can just do one real quick plug, if you don't mind,
absolutely.
Those of you who do not participate with the Alumni Association, they give scholarships to graduate students. We give money to the school. We funded the space camp trip. We fund all kinds of stuff on the campus for our younger brothers and sisters. So if you had any inclination, you've participated in any of that stuff, reach out, join the alumni, pay some dues, maybe send a donation if you can afford it. Obviously, whatever you can afford. But there's going to be a real decline because the population of the Alumni Association is going to start going down. Yeah. We don't have the big classes of the 50s and 60s. The 70s were small classes. Class of 9, our class, Dan and I class, 33 walked, 34 were supposed to graduate. Yep. So the classes go down. The sources that are going to help out our younger brothers, sisters need to be there. And if you can afford it in any way, those are things that we are financially providing support for on the campus. And they're always looking out for additional things for us to help support with. So if you can do it, please join, reach out to the alumni office. Alex Cruz is the director currently. Tim Farwood is the president. Reach out to them, tell them how you want to get involved. There's a speaker series if you want to talk to students there, provide advice. Just reach out to the Alumni Association, and you will get a benefit from it, and so will they.
I am convinced, and you dare not find me somebody who did it before me. I am the first Girard graduate of Space Camp. I not only went once, but twice. In 1994 and in 1995. Engineering track and aerospace track. Suck it! I knew about this stuff way before y'all. Come on now.
Ron, thanks for joining us.
No,
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. This was a lot of fun, and you want me back? I'm always willing to come back.
Well, we've already been extended for season 2. The wives have already approved, so we will hold you to that.
Okay.
And before we close out, I'm not going to have too many 9-4, so you just throw up a little 4 real quick.
Oh God!
Just throw up a
There's
little
the 4.
There it is.
And
All right.
the 4.
9-4.
You're the only one of them that can say you were a
9-4.
horseman. You actually wrestled.
I
was
wrestled
another
in the
point of-
hallways with cardboard belts.
That does it for this week of Dorm Disorder. Please, if you enjoyed this episode, like, share, subscribe. We really want to continue doing this, and you are the energy that we'll need to make sure that this keeps going forward. Thank you so much.
Yep.
See you next week.
Peace out. I'll clobber you, Niddle.